Hi there everyone, this is Ashley with Marshflower Studio. In this video today, I am going to be working on my little puffer fish purse. So these are super adorable. They're really easy to make. They do have a couple pieces that have to be sewn on, but it's not difficult at all. And this is probably a little bit longer of a project, but you can still do it in one sitting, depending on how much time you have. So, because it is a little bit longer, I'm going to kind of go through the steps a little bit, and then I will work through the project so you can kind of write everything down, and then you have it and don't have to watch the entire video all the way to the end, just to get the very last instructions for the very last piece. Okay, so this is worked in a couple different pieces. The first piece we're going to do is the main body, and this does go all the way around. So essentially you're just making like a little bowl or a little cup for the body part, and that is, if you are familiar with, increasing rows, we're doing our 6 single crochets and our magic circle to begin with, and then we're increasing all the way out until we have 4 single crochets in an increase. So you'd have 36 stitches in total for your last increase row, and then you're just going to have 13 rows of single crochet. Okay, so start with your 6 in your magic circle, increase until you have 4 single crochets and an increase. Oh, so sorry. And then 13 rows of single crochet. You'll fasten that off and then set it aside for a minute, and then you'll make the back piece. And one of the things that's super fun about this project is you can use whatever colors you want to use. The more colors, the better. I think they're more fun when you throw in all kinds of different crazy stuff. And I'll talk about the yarns that I use in just a minute. This back section is worked in turning rows. So you'll start with a chain 15, and that's this section up here. And then you'll do 11 rows of single crochet. So, turn, second chain from the hook, 14 single crochets. So that'll take you out to row 12 for this section here. And then it gets a little bit weird, but not that bad. Whenever you turn a row, you're going to decrease at the beginning, you'll single crochet all the way across, and then you'll decrease in the last 2. Okay, so you'll have a decrease on both sides for the next rows, and you're doing that through row 17, and you'll have, I forget exactly how many stitches are in that last row. You want it to be 4 or 5. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't make that much of a difference. So then on this last row, what you're going to do is you're going to decrease in the first stitch, and in that next one over, you're going to do a chain 2 and then put 5 double crochets in that same hole. You'll turn, do a chain 2, and then you'll do 2 double crochets in each stitch across. So you'll have 10 double crochets there. You'll fasten that off, weave your end in. You want to leave a nice long tail for this part, because you're going to use that tail to sew this back piece onto the body. Okay, and once you have your back piece done, you'll set that to the side, and then comes some more of the fun part. So with the same yarn or different yarn, whatever yarn you want to use, you're going to put this back piece up against that body piece, and you're just going to single crochet through both pieces. This one might be a little easier to see here. You're going to single crochet through both pieces all the way across, so you're attaching that back to the body, and then you'll keep single crochet all the way around until you get back to the start. All right, so at this point you can change your yarn, or you can keep going in the same color. I typically will change the color just because I like the way that it looks. But in that next row, whether you're going to attach a new color or continue with the same color, you're going to do a chain 3, and then you're just going to put a treble crochet in each stitch all the way around. Okay, when you finish your treble row, you're going to join, do a little chain, and then I do a slip stitch in each stitch all the way around, just to make that a little bit more sturdy, so your lips don't get like super stretched out and floppy, because we don't want that. Okay, for the string that kind of draws this mouth together closed for you, you can use one color or 2 colors. I'll show you some examples of some of the ones I've done here in just a second. But this is just a chain of 80. I do 2 of those, and we will weave them just in and out. You can do every stitch, you can do every other stitch. I put 5 stitches in between on mine, and it doesn't come out perfectly even. So on one end I have a single stitch in between where this one comes out, and on this end, see how this piece down here only goes underneath 1 before it goes back to another 5, and this one, you know, just has the 1 stitch in between as well. That is something that's not a huge deal, and if you want to, you know, line this up a little bit more centered, you can totally do that. It's up to you how you want to weave in your strings. But I do 2 of them so that I have, you know, 2 to kind of pull from both sides to close this up. These are a good size for any small things you might want to carry around. Your little AirPods, earbuds, chapstick, if you want to throw a little bit of cash, if you're going to like the farmer's market or something. That's easy to throw in here. One of my daughter's friends puts her lady products in here to carry them, so they're not just loose in her bag, and then it's just a super fun little pouch for that. So lots of different things you can do with it. For the eyes, these little white eyes are 6 single crochets in a magic circle, and then 6 increases, so you have 12 all the way around the outside. We fasten that off. I have done a surface crochet of slip stitches, and I have 4 slip stitches here to kind of create that little curve. I like the idea of having just the whole thing be yarn and not using safety eyes on them, especially if there's going to be a kid around. These are like the perfect things to try to fling and spin. And I've had my fair share of getting hit with safety eyes from stuffed animals and whatnot. So I know those can hurt if they accidentally hit something or someone. So I went with just a little slip stitch surface crochet there for that. The side fins here are the same as the tail. I did a magic circle. I put a chain 2, 5 double crochets, you know, chain 2 and turn, and then my 10 double crochets, and then fasten off. So you do 2 of those, nice and easy. You'll sew them on. You can sew, you know, the eyes, the side fins, pretty simple, but it comes out as a really cute, really fun project. And like I said, you can do all kinds of different color combinations. I'll show you some of the ones I've done here. One of my friends actually asked me about this yarn that I have on some of them, because it's kind of stringy, and it is this stuff. So currently, Michael's is carrying this right now. There's quite a few different colors. I only got a couple because it's a little bit more expensive. I think it was like $11 or $12 a roll. So when you think about how many of these little puffer fish you can make with that, that's not that bad. But they do have the blue. I thought the blue was just really fun for a puffer fish kind of color. So I grabbed the blue. I also got the tan color. Oh, it's called Marshmallow. So we have Marshmallow. The blue one is called Sugar Teal. Marshmallow I like to use for that body color because it gives you that texture, but then it lets the colors for the back and the fins kind of really pop. And then the other one that I picked up was this kind of pink and orangey purple color, and it is called Tutti Frutti. So those are the ones that I grabbed just to kind of try out and have fun with, and I thought they'd be really great for this little puffer fish. Okay. As far as hooks go, excuse me. Never fails, those allergies kick in every time I do a video. I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between my 4mm and my 5mm. It really kind of depends on the thickness of the yarn that you're using. If you've worked with different brands of yarn before, you know that some number 4 worsted weight yarns feel thicker than others. This little textured yarn that I have is a number 4 yarn, but it's definitely much thinner than, you know, say your Red Heart worsted weight yarn. So just kind of pick the hook size that you feel comfortable with for the yarn that you have. And of course, it doesn't really matter which way you go. Using the 5mm hook, your stitches are going to be a little looser, and therefore your piece is going to be a little softer. Okay, if you go 4mm, your stitches are going to be tighter, and then your piece is going to be a little bit more stiff. But depending on how big of holes you want to have in your stitches, that can kind of guide you in the direction of which hook to use. And of course you can do the much thicker bulky yarn as well to make these, and then just use a hook size that, you know, coordinates with that yarn. So this is one of my little puffer fishes, and I'm going to pitch them over my back here as I go through them. Here we have this guy, nice bright pink and blue, and I used this yarn on the bottom. Kind of reminds me of like a Tutti Frutti, Fruity Pebble kind of color here. We have that one. We have this lovely mint color with the black fins, and his tummy is the speckled white, gray, and black. We have this guy. Again, see just lots of nice, bright, fun colors. And he's just got a plain tan tummy. Got sugar teal on this one with the bright pink. this one. I love doing the like variegated colors on the backs of these because it makes it so much easier to just kind of leave it plain. I mean, obviously on this one I put some little stitches on there for little spikes. And this one I also did the string the same color as the lips, just to kind of test out how I liked that look. But there's that one. We have this one. We have a black back with this kind of teal tummy. And on this one, I used this kind of minty colored cotton, but I also had some of the scrubby Scrubology cotton, this stuff. So I did my 2 layers, or 2 pieces together with that kind of mint cotton mixed with this to kind of get that same texture as that coconut cotton or whatever it is they call it. And then, you know, my nice pop of hot pink there. I've got just a couple more. I've got this little guy, the pinks, just a tan tummy. And then I have another just crazy color experiment here. This was the same kind of thing with that Scrubology yarn mixed with just a plain navy cotton. And then I did that sugar teal for his body. And just an acrylic for those little side fins and his drawstrings. And if you don't do a back piece, you can do something like this. So we have rainbow fish kind of going here. So there's no back piece on this one. I just did that rainbow yarn and left him as is. And then his nice bright orange lips and his green and blue strings. And then he got his little rainbow tail in the back. But you can also go that route if you just really like the yarn that you're using for the body. You don't have to add that back piece. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one for the video in pink, like a light pink. And we're gonna start with our magic circle. And we'll put 6 single crochets in our magic circle. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, our next row is going to be those 6 increases. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. Alright, remember at any point you can pause if I go a little bit faster than you do. And then, you know, just hit play whenever you get caught up to the same point. Alright, so our next row is going to be 18. So we're going to have an increase for 1 and 2, and then a single crochet for 3. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay. Our next row is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So I'm going to do 1 and 2 is my increase, and then 3, 4, do 5 and 6, and then 7, 8, do 9 and 10, and then 11, 12 and 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Okay. Our next row is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. So we'll end up with 30 at the end of this row. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and then 29 and 30. Okay. So for our last increase row, we're going to have 4 single crochets and an increase. And with this row, I count a little differently myself. So if my counting throws you off, just hit pause and then speed through this row. But you need 4 increases, not 4 increases, 4 single crochets and then an increase. I do 2 and then an increase so that my increases aren't stacking up on top of each other, because that'll make, you know, lines in your work. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase, 5, 6, 7, 8, increase, 9, 10, 11, 12, increase, 13, 14, 15, 16, increase, 17, 18, 19, 20, increase, and then our last 2 finish up that row. All right, so here's where we're going to do 13 rows of single crochet. So I'm going to do my first 2 and then pop one of my hairpin stitch markers in here. If this is the first video of mine that you've watched, I highly recommend these. Using the stitch markers that are kind of like a safety pin drive me nuts. They don't work super well for me. I have a hard time with them. These will slip right on and off, but they don't just fall off, because obviously they're made to hold hair in place. But they're easier to move out of the way to me than those bulkier safety pin versions. And the ones that kind of spin on always get caught in other stitches and other rows to me. So I don't like those either. This works for me. I recommend them. They're super cheap. You can buy an absolute ton of them for almost nothing. So get a bunch of these rows worked up here pretty quick. This is probably the longest part of this whole project, is getting all these rows of the body done. So feel free to fast forward to the end of the body part. So I got the idea for these from another crochet designer. I believe she's in South Africa. She made something very similar and had a workshop where she lives so people could come and watch, the little tutorial that she put on for that. But I live in the United States, so a last minute flight to South Africa was not in the cards for me. So I kind of took the idea, kind of made my own little version of it, because I just thought they were too cute to not make up a bunch of them. Especially for summertime. We live in coastal Georgia, so going out to the beaches and running errands around some of the tourist towns here, having something like this is just really fun. And as kind of a side note, while I let my arm rest for a second, you can always put a clip. I have one right here. You can put one of these little clips on your strings and then clip them to, your belt loop, clip them to your purse, and they make cuter ones than this, obviously. But same kind of idea. Just clip it right to anything, and then you don't have to hold it, and keep your stuff handy. I lost my car keys in the ocean a couple of years ago, and ever since then my hubby has made me keep a clip like that one on my car keys and actually clip it to my belt loop or clip it to my bathing suit. I was down in Clearwater, Florida. We walked out on the beach just to play in the sand for a few minutes. And somewhere between the parking lot and the Gulf of Mexico, my keys fell out of my tiny, worthless women's shorts pockets and were gone. And if you're going to give us pockets, at least make them be able to hold something. So now I have to clip them to myself. Make sure I don't lose them again. It wouldn't have been nearly as bad. But at the time we lived in North Alabama. No. Yeah, we lived in Georgia. was soon after we moved, I guess. My spare key was still in Savannah, Georgia. But I had a 6-month-old baby in tow, and her milk and all that diaper changing goodness was locked in the car. And I had my oldest daughter, who was 9 at the time, with me as well. And when I called my insurance company to see if they could send out, you know, some of the roadside assistance to get my car door unlocked, they said it was going to be 4 hours at the very minimum. I was like, y'all, I have a hungry baby. I need to get into my car sooner than 4 hours from now. Like, it's mid-afternoon. My wallet's in the car. Our shoes are in the car. We were just walking out to the beach for a minute. And I lost my keys. It's one of those days where I kind of wish I had one of those cars that had the little button keypad lock on it. I don't think I could handle one of the ones that's a push button start, because I would never find those keys. If I did not have to have them physically in my hand to start the car, there's no telling where those suckers would ever disappear to. Adjust my seat here. Oh. Sometimes holding my arm at a weird angle while working with the camera here gets tough. Typically when I just work without filming it, I have things much closer to my body, and usually lower. My chair is about giving up on me. It's one of those desk chairs that'll raise and lower. But if I sit in it at just the right angle, it lets itself down. So I can't really lean from side to side when I'm sitting in it. Let's see, how many rows do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, okay. I'm just sitting here thinking about counting as I work. And my oldest kid has learned that if she needs to ask me a question, it needs to be yes, no, where I can shake my head. And then I can just keep counting. My husband hasn't learned this trick yet. He'll ask me questions like, where's my hat? So I have to give like an actual thought out response, and that always throws off my count and I get irritated. Like, I can listen, I can process and count at the same time, but talking to answer a question will throw me off. And there is a written pattern for this puffer fish on Etsy. So make sure you check the link in the description box if you want to have the written out version. All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 2 more rows. And then this body will be finished. A lot of the patterns that I design, I try to leave some flexibility in there, so that depending on, you know, your tension, whether you're crochet over or under, right-handed or left-handed, shouldn't make a difference. If you're using different kinds of yarn, like using the red heart and then using some of the coconut cakes, they're different thicknesses even though they're the same weight. You can make some small adjustments and it'll still work out. I'll talk about what I mean by adjustments here in a second when you're using different brand yarns. I think that was right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yay. Okay. I'm just going to do a little slip stitch here. Trim that off and pull it through. And then because I'm kind of lazy when it comes to weaving in ends, I will take the end or the starting string and just make a little square knot here on the outside, because I put the back that I make right over top of this, and it hides this in here, and you don't have to do anything more than that to get it out of the way. Okay, so that's our body. We'll move on to the back. For this one, I'm going to use this nice kind of almost raspberry color. At some point, the label came off of this one, so I'm not exactly sure what brand or color name. If I had to guess, I would say this is probably from Michael's as well. The three main stores where we have yarn here are, obviously Walmart. We have Michael's and Joann's and Hobby Lobby. So this yarn that I used for the back of this fish is one of the Hobby Lobby lovelies. I really like some of the color mixes that they do with those. All right, so we'll set our back to the side for a second. We're going to start with our slip knot and our chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, so here's the first place where you can make adjustments if you would like to. Especially if you're using different thicknesses of yarn. So I like for this back piece to be just shy of covering like a half, right? So if you flatten it and you've got a little bit sticking out both sides of your body still, that's kind of where I like to be. If yours is nowhere near that, add a few chains. Okay, it's not going to make that much of a difference if you add a couple extra. If it's too wide, take a couple out. Okay, so then we're going to turn second chain from the hook. We'll just single crochet all the way across. If you did a chain 15, you'll have 14 single crochets going across here. Okay, so we'll do a chain 1 and turn, and we'll just continue doing our single crochets back and forth. If you want to do a different texture, you can absolutely do any kind of stitch combination that you would like to try. So far I've only stuck to these nice simple single crochet row backs, but you could do the moss stitch for a little different texture. You could do like the daisy chain, star stitch. You could really make these very unique and special just by changing up how you do this stitch section for the back. And really, if you like surface crocheting, which I kind of don't, you could just surface crochet straight onto the body to give it some color and texture, add a little bit of fun. I like having this separate back piece. Mostly because it adds a little bit of stability to the little purse. And there is another fun little trick I'll show you guys with the back. The one that I did this on to begin with has already been sold. We're doing 12 rows from beginning to end. They're just single crochet, and then we'll start decreasing. And if your back, if your back doesn't seem like it's going to be long enough for the way you want it to look, you can add another row here in this main section of the back. Oh, one of my tiny tornadoes is getting grumpy. So with this back section, it's a little easier to see now. Oh, it doesn't go all the way to the very edges. But we're going to have our 12 rows, and you want your tail, when it kind of curves down and we make our tail, we want our tail to be just a couple of rows from that center of the body back here. So our center magic circle is right here. We want our tail to attach just a little higher than that, so it's not, curved down the butt. I have that nice and high sticking out the back. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was row 8 for me. So we have 9. 11, 12. Alright, so I have this, and now I'm going to do a decrease on both ends, and you can do your decreases however you want. A lot of people do the front loop only, under both, yarn over and pull through. On this, because it's not going to show, I just skip the first one and go straight to that second one for my single crochet. And it kind of just creates a nice little curve versus a step that some of the decrease alternatives will show. And then when I get to the other side, so I've got 2 stitches left. I'm going to skip that one that's closest to me and just go in the last one. So you're not getting that bulky kind of decrease stitch, but you're still going down a stitch. So again, I'm going to skip the first one, go into the next one, and single crochet across. And then when I get to those last 2, I'm going to skip the one that's next and go into the last one. Chain 1 and turn. Again, we'll skip the first stitch and then single crochet across. Or skip the second to last one and go into the last stitch. Chain 1 and turn. And we just do this back and forth until we get, like I said, just that last 4 or 5 stitches on the end here. All right, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I'm going to skip first stitch. I go into that second one and do a slip stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to put 5 double crochets in that same hole. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to chain 2 and turn. I'm going to put 2 double crochets in each stitch. So you'll have 10 double crochets plus your chain 2. Okay, so I'm going to do actually a chain 2, and then I'm going to go through that chain stitch from where I turned, just to kind of bring that corner down. And then we need a nice long tail, because we're going to use this tail to sew the back to the body. Like, all right, so this is currently where we are. We have a body, we have our back, and depending on how you want to do the mouth for your pufferfish here, I'm going to do this first row with the same color. So I just made a little slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to do through both pieces. Just make a little single crochet there. Oh, I put my body in the wrong place. If you did like what I did here, you want your back to cover that up. Get some of these extra strings out of the way. And here's where you can do kind of a fun little extra thing if you would like. So what I'm going to do is do single crochets through just the back piece here, and then when you open the purse, you'll actually have 2 compartments. So you could have, you know, a little cash stash back here in this one, and then keep your chapstick and your, you know, AirPods or whatever in that bigger part. See, I'm going to do a second one through both pieces as well, just to make sure that's a little nice and sturdy. Do just this piece. And if you don't want the pocket, just crochet through both pieces, the body and the back. Sometimes crocheting through a chain that you've made to start something can be a little frustrating. Oops. All right, so if you're doing this part, on these last 2, we're going to go through both pieces again, just with our single crochet. And then we'll continue on just the body the rest of the way around. And I'll join. Oop, too far. Back into where it started. Okay, so I've got my little pocket here. I will use this piece just to sew all the way around. Again, You don't want to sew through both pieces up here because you want to leave that pocket open. So I'll weave this piece through just the back and then continue sewing down that side. Okay. So I'm going to set that aside for right now. Our let's do we're going to do navy for the lips. Put my navy, let's snuck away. Grab my navy. Okay. So this is just a loops and threads. Go ahead and tie that off. I'll weave that in a few minutes. I'm going to slip knot. And we'll just go right in that same little spot. I'm going to do a slip stitch to attach this one. I'm going to do a chain 3, and then we're doing treble crochets all the way around. Make sure that when you're doing this part where the back is, you're only working into that back section, that darker pink, and not through both, because that would close up your little secret pouch. Oops, sorry about that. almost done with this row of trebles. Doing this treble stitch here allows for you to have plenty of space for those little strings to slide in there for opening and closing this bag. All right, so I'm going to join my last one there, and then I'm going to do a slip stitch all the way around. I'll tuck those in there so they're out of the way. So right now you can see this is kind of floppy, flimsy. We don't want it to be quite that floppy. So I'm going to do a little chain one and then just slip stitch. And that provides some stability to the top of these treble stitches. All right, so we'll cut that off. We'll tie it up and weave it in. Now the mouth of our fish has a lot more stability to it, and it's not just going to get all stretched out and floppy. Okay, so the eyes are definitely one of the easiest things to do because it's 6 single crochets in a magic circle and then 6 increases. I've got a couple here that are already done, so I'm going to surface crochet one of these. All right, so I'll put a little slip stitch on my hook, and then I'm going in between these little posts here. So I'll put one there, I'll go under this one, under this one, and then under that one. And that kind of gives you that curved smiley eye shape. So there's one. Two. Three. And 4. All right. So shut that off. Make sure everything's nice and tight. I'm going to pull the ends to the back. So this nice little eye shape here. I will tie these in a little square knot again. We'll trim them because we don't want all that extra, fightness as we're trying to get these put on. But we'll sew these right here behind those lips, and I usually do mine half on the back, half on the body, so that they'll be on the side of the fish when it's poofed up. Okay? And then for the fins, those little side fins, boop. We're going to make our magic circle in whatever color you want to make them out of. I'm going to do a chain 2 and 5 double crochets. This is just like the tail. All right, pull that closed, do chain 2 and turn, and then 2 double crochets in each stitch across, plus your chain 2. All right, I'm going to do a chain 2 here at the end and just slip stitch it to that first row. And we'll cut just enough to sew it to the body. And we want to put them just a row or 2 behind that eye as far as spacing goes. All right, and you can use any color you want to add, embroidered details to the back or to the body. You could add some extra details to the fins with a different color. The possibilities are endless. And then that strap that goes through the mouth to kind of close it as a purse is a chain 80. And you'll need 2 of those, and then just weave them through. You can just tie them together once you get them through, or put a little bead on it, whatever you want to do. But that is the puffer fish. They're super cute. The crazier the colors, I think the better they turn out. But everybody's got their color combination that they're drawn to, right? So the pattern for this is going to be linked in the description box. So make sure you check that out if you would like to have the written pattern. If you have any questions about any part of this pattern, let me know. I'll try to get those answered as quick as I can. And make sure you like and subscribe. I always appreciate those. And until next time, happy hooking, crochet nerds.